Leader of opposition, the Secretary General, all the deputy presidents, other party leaders, our graduates, other leaders, the parents to the graduates, friends, everyone. I'm really honored to be before you today as the guest speaker. I congratulate the graduates. I was informed that this is the second certificate awarding ceremony, and that last year the keynote speaker was General Muntu. So this year they looked around for another general, and they felt that I would be the right person to give the keynote speech. Not really to say that the general title is a big one, especially today. But nevertheless, I'm really honored. I want to first thank you before I go into the main, the gist of my invitation. I thank you, many of you, for standing with us when I lost my brother a few days ago. Yeah, many of you are there with us. You've sent us messages. I've not read many of the messages because they were overwhelming. You sent messages, condolences, some of you called. Yeah, we really don't take that for granted. Yeah, I thank you so much for that. And in that line, Sabantu Mukisa Era, to request you that we stand up for a moment of silence in honor of my fallen brother, Dr. John Bosco Chibundu Spire. May his soul rest in peace. When I'll not have to translate, I want to assume that many of us will understand me, but also for the sake of including those who may not understand Uganda. Otherwise, if I translate, we might spend the whole day here. So here and there, I'll use a bit of Luganda, but I may not translate everything. When Mr. David Rubongwea reached out to me, I first turned down the invitation. Of course, following the recent loss of my dear brother, I have not yet recovered from the shock and pain. I've been quiet for a while since my mind is not yet in the right place. I'm still going through a long night. But I quickly remembered that when my brother died, Mr. Rubongwea is one of the so many people that reached out to me with condolences and a message from the President, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi. Abaganda bagamba nti munno mukabi. As a friend in difficult times, he's a true friend. But also on top of that, although I have not been very close to Noob, and this is my first time here, on a number of occasions, the leaders have reached out to me, sometimes encouraging me, please visit us, could we have a talk? A few years ago, I held a comedy show, and I was surprised to see the entire crew of Honorable Kyagulanyi. Yes, even Nubian Lee was there with his small voice. I saw him in the audience. Yes, and Eddie Motwe, the Secretary General as well. I was really surprised because I never invited any politician, especially I wouldn't invite them because I wanted the show to go on. So I don't know whether their intention was to sabotage the show by their presence. Yeah, but it means a lot if one can just randomly show up, and they showed up in such a number. I'm impressed by people who are humble. I'm impressed by people who do not try to show that they are high up there, but who can come down, regardless of the positions they might hold or their qualifications. And I've seen this on a number of occasions, your leaders going to places where you wouldn't expect them to be. So that being with me, that being with us in grieving, but also on other occasions where it was really surprising for them to be there. I don't take it for granted. I remember even the time I was quarantined, again, Honorable Chagulanyi called me, and he's one of those that try to encourage me to go through that difficult time. So therefore, despite my current circumstances, I changed my mind and accepted to be here today. A friend I told about coming here asked me to go there. Are you sure you want to be kidnapped while still grieving? I told him that the kidnappers are human, they can't do that. Yes, and sometimes they are too stupid, they would take that for a compliment. The second reason why I accepted is because I believe that my relevance as an academic is primarily in being able to share the knowledge I have been privileged to acquire with my people that might need it. My titles mean little or nothing if I'm irrelevant to my community. We who want to consider ourselves to be highly educated have on so many occasions dismissed those who are trying to change what is not going right in this country. We have said that they lack knowledge. We said they are not well groomed. We have said they are unwashed. We have said they are still raw. In one of the speeches, I think the representatives of the group, yes, she said you went to the training when you were, did you mean raw or low? Oh, when you were raw. And now the president whispered to me that now you're low, L-A-W. Yes, so they said that some of you were raw and dismissed you on that account. Yet whenever we are invited to rise to the occasion, we shy away with excuses. I have chosen to respect whoever tries to do what needs to be done, even if they may not be perfect, even if they may be imperfect. After all, we are all imperfect. Era Abaganda tugamba nti akanyuga lyali nalyo n'olwekyo mbasaamu ekitiibwa olw'okukanyuga lye muli nalyo wadde abamu bagamba nti ttono oba wadde abamu bagamba nti mukutte ekifunfugu. I will certainly critique them, but in the spirit of improving, not destroying. That is the second reason why I accepted to come. I'm not here because you're perfect. No one is. I'm not here because I agree with everything you do. I'm not here because I think you have the best credentials. I'm here because, unlike many of us, you chose not to fold your hands. You chose to do what you can do in your capacity, which is better than doing nothing. I'm here because despite of all the risks you face, despite of the pictures on those walls of your comrades who have died in the struggle, despite of your colleagues being locked away in this beautiful country's jails without any fair trial, despite frequent threats of crushing you for no good reason, despite the everyday risk of being rounded up and driven away for torture, despite temptations of big monies being thrown at you, you people still stand by what you believe. I respect that. Yes, it is indeed surprising that with all that has happened at this place, you can still come here and find people seated here. You would only expect a fool to sit in such a place. Because for some, even just passing there, they have to run. because this is a dangerous place. It's like what we used to hear about Bermuda Triangle. So for you to choose to still stay in a place that is that risky to be, especially where the risk is not for having broken any law, but for standing by a certain cause. I really respect that. Whether I agree with it or not, I still respect it. And especially because we don't have many people today who are willing to take such a stance. The third reason I'm here is because of your constant efforts at making yourselves better. You have challenged many of us at individual level, we who consider ourselves to be more worthy. You have challenged all the political parties and seasoned politicians. Of course, it's not to say or to despise them. They are doing some of them are doing wonderful things. But I think it's a challenge for the few years you've been around to do what you've been able to do. We may publicly bash you, but we privately ask ourselves, aba bavubuka bakikola batya? You have responded to dismissal by proving your capacity to grow and transform, as the president said. We said you're not educated, which was not entirely true, because many of you are really educated and even highly educated. But when we say that you're not educated, many of you went back to school. We said you were bayai, hooligans. Although I think many of you might have believed, like I do, that there is nothing wrong with carrying dreadlocks. You painfully cut them off to fit into the public's idea of a decent person. After all, and this reminds me of a song by Morgan Heritage. You don't, yes, right. You don't have to dread to be Rasta. You don't have to dread to be Rasta. Yes, it's not a dreadlocks thing, it's a divine conception of the heart. Nubian, I expected to hear a small voice behind. I don't know why, for the many years I've been hearing your collabos with now Bobby Wine. I don't know why you choose to always sing the small voice and he sings the big one. Yes, but the point I'm trying to make is that even when they said you're bayai, some of you had to cut off your dreadlocks, although you knew that it's not really about the dreadlocks, it's not about appearance, it's what one has at heart, what one has in their mind. You chose to cut them off to fit into the public narrative for the sake of what you believed needed to be done. You set up a leadership school whose fruits we are celebrating today, something that was unprecedented. We wondered what the curriculum was, and it has been asked many times. I heard you mention some of the things you studied, but many people have been asking, what is that school teaching and who are the lecturers? I've been able to see some of them here today. Yes, but that's no mean achievement, and beyond it being an achievement, it also shows the zeal to learn and understanding that we are not going to keep ourselves in a particular position. We need to inform ourselves in order to do what we have to do. Someone said that, I forget the name, that if he was given a task of cutting down a tree and he was given 4 hours, he would spend the first 3 hours sharpening the axe and maybe 1 hour to cut the tree. You have been sharpening your axe because there was a provision that was set according to the vision, which I really commend. Earlier this year, you invited me to speak to your trainees. It was my first time to visit your facilities. One thing that struck me was how the trainees listened very attentively and with very high discipline for over 3 hours. For over 3 hours, I overstayed my welcome. I was invited to speak for 1 hour, I ended up speaking for 3. But they stayed there listening attentively. And the discipline with which they took instruction from the director, Miss Doreen Kaija, it was really amazing. At the time I visited the school, it had just been violently raided by security and most equipment had been confiscated. I asked if there was a projector that I could use for my presentation. And Doreen responded, "We don't have, everything was taken." But when I entered the room, I found it packed with people waiting for me. I asked them, "You people, how are you able to still gather in this place, yet you know you can be rounded up anytime?" They simply laughed. I found that commitment and the desire to learn quite impressive. The fourth reason why I'm here, when I'm giving the reasons, it sounds like I'm singing UB40's song. Which song is that? Even Doctor is also into the thing. Yes, reasons why I love you 1, reasons why I love you 2. Now I'm on the 4th reason. This is a selfish one. I'm here to distract myself from the pain of losing my brother and to use this occasion to make reflections on life, purpose, and resilience, which could speak to your life experiences and aspirations. When John died, almost everything I have been doing lost meaning. Kajaba kamera balinze nkabe sigenda kaaba. Agala mukwata akafaananyi mukajjeyo nga wayise emyaka ng'aka pasita Bujingo mukatambuze. Sigenda kaaba wadde enkovu zinnuma. So when John died, almost everything I have been doing lost meaning. I keep asking myself, what for? What is life all about? What is the actual difference between being alive and being dead? Why do we struggle so hard in life only to vanish like wildflowers? Why do people who try to do good suffer? Why do those who bring pain to others often live long? What is the worth of our effort on earth? Why should we continue doing anything or even continue to live? So many questions, very few clear answers. I will only expand on one here. The question of why we are here on earth is a difficult one to answer. Ensonga lwaki tuli wano ku nsi ng'abantu nzibu nnyo okuzuula. From a religious angle, the answer comes easily, that we are here to worship God and do whatever He created us to do. I would focus more on the second purpose of doing what we were created for. On the purpose of worshiping God, I'm hesitant to believe that us simply for the sake of singing His greatness. Only imperfect beings wish to be worshipped. I'm therefore more inclined to believe in worship through actions towards our fellow imperfect human beings and other animals. I don't so much believe in worship that is about only singing about God's greatness if that is not reflected in our actions. I think our actions mean much more than what we can see. On the second purpose, how do we know what God created us for? Even the thief might argue that if we say that God knew us before we were born, then God knew that he would be a thief. Therefore, he is simply fulfilling God's plan. The torturer might make the same argument. Maybe that is why they often talk about torturing others and they mention Jesus in the same statement. Maybe that is why they would make public apologies, but without regretting or redressing any specific harm that they did to others. We would argue that perhaps the best way to tell if what we are doing or plan to do is what God created us for is to check if it is in line with what God encourages in the scriptures and what we consider to be God's nature. Can a good God create a person with the purpose of harming others? That would contradict God's nature as we know it. The other approach to understanding our purpose is by simply studying human nature in general and our particular uniqueness as individuals in our circumstances. When you keenly study human beings, you realize that there are two important elements that shape our key life choices. The two elements are happiness and pain. I consider those to be the most important aspects of human life, happiness and pain, and I will explain why. We are trying to maximize happiness for ourselves and to minimize pain or suffering. The reason you graduates chose to study is to maximize your happiness in some way and to minimize the pain that would come from not doing this course or the pain that would come from not being informed. The reason you go to hospital when you're sick is to minimize pain. The reason you seek for a well-paying job is to minimize happiness, rather to maximize happiness and minimize the pain of poverty or being broke. The reason you buy a car or build a house, the reason you produce children and take them to school is more or less the same. The reason why human beings at one point came up with the idea of having a government above them is so that it would help them to do things that they could not do individually. I don't think human beings set up governments as an end in themselves, as that a government was a good thing to be there just as a government. It was set in place to help them achieve things that they could not achieve individually as a way of maximizing happiness, especially to protect their lives, to protect their liberty or safeguard it, and their property. People agreed to pay taxes for the sake of what they expected in return. Therefore, governments in the modern sense were precisely created by human beings in order to maximize happiness and minimize pain. Not so that the powerful can maximize their happiness at the expense of the weak or subjects. The forms of government that survive on exploiting those under them have been tried in human history and found to be unsustainable. Even though some parts of the world still insist on them, they are not sustainable and they end up crashing, unfortunately, with so many people over time. We then realize that it is not enough for us to pursue what makes us happy and minimizes our individual pains without regard to the happiness and pain of others. The limit of your search for happiness is that point at which your happiness starts causing pain to others. This is where a sadist's view of happiness becomes problematic. A sadist is someone who gets happiness from the suffering of others. It is a mental disorder. You ever see someone celebrating the pain of others? And especially if they are not celebrating the pain of an oppressor, then that person has a mental disorder. Because naturally, you would feel bad or something would haunt you if another person is going through pain. The person who celebrates the torture of another is a sadist, except, and I want to emphasize, except if the one whose suffering is being celebrated is the kind that causes pain to others. I'm one of those who believe that it's not a bad thing to celebrate the pain of an oppressor. And I saw people throwing that at me when I lost my brother. But the difference is, my brother was not an oppressor of anyone. I'm not an oppressor of anyone, or so I would want to believe. So celebrating his death wouldn't really make sense in that context. But if the person who has died has been making the life of others unbearable, it is understandable why those people would celebrate naturally. Ideally, as human beings, the most ideal world would be one where we care about maximizing each other's happiness and minimizing each other's pain. Many conflicts in the history of humanity have been caused by a desire of different individuals or groups to exclusively care about their happiness without being bothered about the pain of others. While we human beings boast about being the only rational animals, it is strange how our rationality often fails to show us that a world where the happiness of some individuals is based on the suffering of others is never sustainable. How does our rationality fail to show us that almost obvious case? The one whose happiness inflicts pain on others can never really be happy in the long run. I repeat, the one whose happiness inflicts pain on others can never really be happy in the long run. They live in fear. They keep worrying about what their victims could be planning. Their display of anger and violence is not always because they want to show power. It is mostly because they are frightened. Have you ever observed the reaction of a dog that is trapped in a room when you get in? The anger it shows as it growls is actually born out of fear. That is why the slave abolitioner Frederick Douglass said that no man can put a chain on the leg of his fellow man without at last finding the other end fastened around his neck. I repeat this quote from Frederick Douglass. No man can put a chain around the leg of a fellow man or a fellow woman without at last finding the other end of that chain fastened around his own neck. And it's partly why the oppressors live in fear. Much as they will chain others, that chain is also around their necks. It is not really a good thing to live in fear all the time. One of the reasons they would have high security, unnecessarily high security, is because they are afraid of what those they lead, which is a contradiction. Why should I fear people that I lead? Especially if I assume they love me. Knowing then that no one desires pain, and that often the pain we cause to others ultimately affects our happiness, we should all seek to pursue a life that aims at achieving the greatest happiness possible for everyone and the least pain possible. As you think about what you should be as a leader in your different capacities, seek to be that leader who does not prioritize his or her own happiness, even when it harms others. Corruption becomes wrong because of how it harms others for the sake of the happiness of some. I imagine that some of you are planning to stand in the forthcoming election, some of you graduates. I have already seen posters with all sorts of catchy slogans, some clearly deceptive. Do you really mean your slogans, or it is just a bait to catch voters? What is motivating you to stand for that position? What is motivating you to sell your property to raise funds for campaigns? Is it to maximize the happiness of those you seek to represent? Is that the reason why party cards are a do or die? Is that why people fight and treat each other as enemies in elections? Is it mainly about competition to serve? Are these people who are almost willing to kill each other simply competing to serve? That I would die in order to be the one to serve people? I think we need to reflect about that. What is the balance between personal interests? Thank you. What is the balance between personal interests and the interest to serve? While we congratulate you, the graduates, for having accomplished the leadership training, your certificate is not what we celebrate. We celebrate what we expect you to have become. We do not expect you to always remind us about what you studied. We simply want to see the difference in your actions. It should be your actions to announce what you studied, not just the certificate or your words. We don't primarily care about the quality of the dog in the fight. We mainly care about the quality of the fight in the dog. As Wole Soyinka once said, a tiger does not announce its tigritude. A tiger doesn't have to announce that, hey, I'm a tiger. How do you know that it's a tiger? The tiger does not have to announce its tigritude. It pounces. And after it has pounced, then you would know that that is what? Ugandans are in the habit of announcing their titles. I'm Dr. Mchibi Yusuf. I'm Engineer Opolot Patrick. I'm Honorable Agaba James. Yes, but in my view, it would make more sense if it is the people who added the title on the basis of what they see in you. It shouldn't be you to announce your own importance. You could have noticed, and I'm not in the habit of praising myself, just to make the point. You will not see my title anywhere on my social media handles. You will not see Dr. Spire Sentongo. It's just my name plain. If one feels I should be called doctor, then they should use the title, but not me to announce it everywhere and to introduce myself. I'm honored to be here. I'm Dr. Spire Sentongo. Yes, I worked for it, but the fact that I worked for it is not the most important thing. To me, the most important thing is what that title can do. Sometimes I've appeared on discussions, talk shows, and I've seen a comment on social media. What is a cartoonist doing discussing politics? I don't have to tell them anything. I don't have to justify myself to tell them about my qualifications, except on one occasion when I had to do it, when I felt it was quite provocative. I just told the person, here is my CV. I have 4 degrees and 2 of them are first-class degrees. Can I know yours? And I did not get a response. But that's not the important thing. Actually, despite, I mentioned it some time back, despite of all the degrees I have, you will not even find a graduation picture in my house. I don't have even one. For other reasons, but one of them, I don't want to be the one to, every visitor should see, the owner of this house has all these degrees and therefore they know how to behave in the house. First and foremost, they should know that they have visited a human being. That is the most important thing. Uganda is not short of educated people. Uganda is not short of people desiring to be leaders. Uganda is mainly short of people that are willing and ready to use their knowledge and positions for doing good beyond their personal interests. Ugandan politics is not simply short of people of integrity. Rather, Ugandan politics is simply short of people of integrity. And this runs across the political divide, across the spectrum. We have seen crooks in government, and we have seen real crooks in the opposition. Is that true?
Yes.
You've seen crooks in government and real crooks where? You do not become entitled to being a crook simply because you're in opposition. Recently, when we held the Parliament exhibition with Agora, which Honorable Chagulanyi mentioned, with a few exceptions, I was shocked by the silence of most opposition MPs about the rot in the House. Many of them avoided commenting or even volunteering information about the abuse of taxpayers' money in Parliament, which they were actually aware about. Many of them were quiet. I'm not shocked by the silence of those NRM independents, but the silence of opposition people when we are here exhibiting Parliament and the road there. And you try to contact some of the people in opposition whom you would imagine that would be their interest. Nothing. They don't give you any information until it comes out, and then they call you and say, we knew that. We have always known that that thing is happening. So that's why I say there are crooks in government, and there are crooks where? And that being in opposition does not entitle you to being a crook. So many of them avoided commenting or even volunteering information about those abuses, which they knew. Like in Animal Farm, we the other animals peeked through the window. We looked at the humans and we looked at the pigs, and we could hardly notice the difference. With a few exceptions. And I'm happy to mention that Honorable Senyonyi was one of those exceptions. That at least once in a while he could volunteer some information. And I'm not going to say which information. Tuli bachama chaffe ku ttale. Nakati kikyandi ku mutima. Some opposition MPs are part of the schemes where they are given money for trips and workshops that they never attend, or whose days they exaggerate to get more per diem from taxpayers. Even opposition MPs do that. Some opposition MPs took the 100 million bribe that was given recently during the debate on the court-martial issue. And we know it. Some awarded themselves huge packages without considering the pain of the taxpayer and without considering what basic services could be provided with that amount of money. And they reciprocate for these favors by also closing an eye to the theft done by their bosses in Parliament. So they make their deals, they are given these trips, for some of which they don't go. But when the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker or other NRM MPs do something, the deal is that they should also close one eye. We need to reflect deeply on that and not simply to identify as opposition if we can still do such things that are against the interest of the country and our people. Now they are back with beautiful slogans on posters looking for votes. I imagine we all know what to do. Remember that being in opposition comes with an even bigger burden of proving to be more worthy than those in power. In assessing your actions, people are assessing to see if you're worth trying, if there is any difference. We may not want to hear this, but some actions of politicians in opposition make people fear to change from the devil they know. I repeat this, which we may not want to hear. some actions of politicians in opposition make people to fear changing from the devil that they know. At times I have drawn 1 or 2 critical cartoons of the opposition, and the insults I got made me scared what such individuals would do to me if they had more power. Like, you have drawn hundreds of cartoons about the other side. You draw just 1 or 2 critical of people in opposition and they insult you for 2-3 days. Naturally, you withdraw a bit and ask yourself, if these people actually get more power, what are they capable of doing? Now extend that beyond me, because at least for me, I'll say it. There are many people who are quiet there observing without saying anything. But sometimes you make them change their mind. That if these people are acting like this without power, what would happen if they have more? I understand that sometimes this is caused by anger. That we are too angry because of all the suppression, all the oppression. But what that oppression, the trap that is set for us, what it makes us do could sometimes be risky. It would change the minds of others. I'm told that some of you graduating are foot soldiers. We have foot soldiers here. Foot soldiers? I know, because you're not sure of what I want to say, there are now a few who are identifying as foot soldiers. Yes, I understand some of you graduating are foot soldiers, and I know that you do a great job being there on the front line, sometimes to combat people that we are not able to combat, sometimes to push back against narratives that are misleading. But I would only add a small thing. Mwige okulowoozanga ennyo ku ki ebikolwa byammwe kye biyinza okulowoozesa abantu. Kiddamu era ne Pulezidenti yakyogeddeko. Mwige okulowoozanga ennyo ki ebikolwa byammwe kye biyinza okulowoozesa abantu. Oluusi muvuma ekiteetaagisa. Sigamba mmwe ndowooza abataliiwo. Oluusi muvuma ekiteetaagisa. Oluusi omuntu anyiiga n'avuma. Ndowooza nange nalinyiizeeko n'envuma. Wadde nze nvumira mu katuuni, sivuma butereevu ng'aba muvuma. Naye ate okuvuma tokufuula nkola. Kya buntu olumu okunyiiga n'ova mu mbeera. Olumu bw'ova mu mbeera ng'onyiiza ovuma, naye okuvuma tekulina kufuuka nkola. It should not become a method. Nga n'omuntu akubuuza ekibuuzo okumanya endowooza yo, omuvuma buvumi. Akuwabula naye n'omuvuma. We may say that that is not the official party position, and I imagine so. But we have to tame ourselves as individuals. Every individual, whether you're this side or that side or outside, it's always a good thing to be prudent, to tame ourselves, to know what we should do in particular circumstances or not. Your sense of judgment is best seen in how you react to challenges. Our sense of judgment is not best seen when everything is smooth. Not so. People judge us most by how we behave when we are challenged, not by how we behave when everything is okay. The leadership you intend to show when you get power is first exemplified by how you conduct yourselves outside power. How you use the power you have now. Let your education be seen in that, not just photos and gowns. Abantu bangi batunula mu kasirise beetegereza ate tebeerabira. Emirundi egisinga omuntu gw'ovumye teyeerabira, gwe weerabira. Abaganda bagamba nti kyerabirwa mugambi naye tekyerabirwa mugambibwa. Olw'okuba ovuma abantu bangi ojja kuvuma weerabira. Naye nze gw'ovumye seerabira, era oluusi bwe ntunulako ne ndaba eno profile picture okulina akakoofiira yanvumye. so nsigala ekyo kisigalamu ne bwe twogera naye muli kisigalamu omuntu ono yanvuma naddala bw'onvuma tewali nsonga waliwo omuntu lwakuvuma naawe n'okkiriza naye mbadde nsaana okuvumibwa ekyo tekiruma nnyo akuba emirundi egisinga n'asaana okuvumibwa tamanya nti asaana okuvumibwa. Some of you seated here now might jump the fence tomorrow to the total opposite of what you appear to stand for now. It is actually okay to defect if one realizes on grounds of principle that they were wrong yesterday. Abamu ku mmwe mugenda kukyuka enkya. Muli mu colors zino enkya bajja balaba mu kala endala. Tewali buzibu kukyuka naddala bwe kubanga ekikukyusizza kulaba nti we mbadde ndi mbadde mukyamu ng'olina ensonga eyesimba naye si buli kukyuka nti tekulina buzibu. It is actually okay to defect if one realizes on grounds of principle that they were wrong yesterday or that the group they belong to lost direction. Only a fool doesn't change their mind when there is good reason to do so. However, the reason for your change of mind matters a lot. Jumping from one political affiliation to another in pursuit of positions and personal benefits is a mark of a leader we do not need. I repeat, jumping from one political affiliation to another in pursuit of positions and personal benefits is a mark of a leader we do not need. Also note that defection is not an entirely personal matter. Defection is not only about you, it's not an entirely personal matter. An individual who defects for selfish reasons leaves behind broken hearts of those who believed in him or her, and who might find it hard to ever trust a politician again. Bw'okyuka nga waliwo abantu abadde bakukkiririzaamu ennyo ate ng'okyusa olwatali nsonga eri awo naye okyuse lwa byoyagala okufuna. Abantu b'oba omazeemu amaanyi baba bayitirivu nga mwe muli n'abo bagamba sijja kuddamu kwesiga munnabyabufuzi. Kati kitegeeza nti tekiri ku ggwe wekka. It's not your decision alone. That decision goes along with so many other people that you're going to affect, but also affecting the country that others desire to see. Some will choose never to vote again because they voted for someone who ended up betraying them. They voted for someone who ended up changing side. Just like some women whose hearts have been broken by a man that they trusted so much, they may now be saying, all men are dogs. So ng'omusajja yakumenya omutima yali omu naye n'oga abasajja bonna mbwa. Kati n'emufa abamala gakyukakyuka mulimu abalowoozesa abantu nti bannabyabufuzi zonna mbwa. Ebyobufuzi tebigenda kuddamu kuntwala kuba omuntu g'oyiirawo omubiri. Ekyo kigambo kye nkozesezza kyantama n'okuwulira. Era ndowooza ku luno tewali azze ng'asuubiza okuyiirawo munno omubiri. Omuntu gw'obadde oyiirawo omubiri n'ozuula nti ali mu bibye, bw'atuuka eddaala n'alisindika. You're not only accountable to yourself and your party leaders, but also to those that look up to you, many of whom you may never actually know. Lastly, you know better than me that the terrain you are faced with is a rough one. Kino mukimanyi okunsinga. Kye muyingiridde oba kye mulimu already. Kiki? Kye mulimu kiki? Nga bwe nayogedde nga ntandika. Ffe tubeereeyo ne twewuunya naye abantu abali awo balina kizibu ku mitwe oba conviction ye y'amaanyi ennyo nti n'ebino byonna ebibaddewo era omuntu addayo. Oli n'awandiika ku mukutu nti ngenda kukwasa omutwe n'osanga era ng'omuntu akomyewo ng'alinga agamba oba ogwasa gwase. So kyenva ngamba nti kyemutunuulidde mukimanyi okunsiima. It is a very tough terrain, especially now that we are in election time and that we have someone in charge that we don't know what they are capable of, or we have an idea of what they are capable of, but it is not something that you can look up to. Some of you might die. Or I can even put it in the affirmative and not threaten anyone. Tujja komawo wano nga tugamba omugenzi gundi twali naye wano. Ekyo sikyogera kutiisa naye tukimanyi kuba bangi nga bwe naga ebifaananyi ebimu ebiri awo by'abantu abaafa ate nga baali bannaffe nga n'ekyabatiisa tukimanyi. Some of you might get crippled. It was a very emotional moment when you were handing a gift to one of your comrades who was disabled or was lost his limb when he was doing this work. But we know all the time that we could all end up like that. Recently there was, I think during the Kawempe elections, there is this video which was making rounds that really touched me so much, of a certain gentleman whose leg had been broken, but he was still standing on it's called who? Tower. That even with all that pain, with a broken leg, you could still go there and lift it, showing that they've broken my leg. And you know, there are many other people who see that, but they are still willing to go, which is one of the reasons I gave for coming here. In fact, what some of those people don't know, that by doing that to people who are innocent, you end up emboldening those who are not even concerned. Because they also ask themselves, but how can one be this ruthless? So much as I might not be able to do what you do, but I really admire it. But the point I was trying to make was that all that is going to happen. Some of you might lose loved ones. Some of you will go to jail. I see you holding placards of colleagues, of your comrades who are now in jail, some of whom you don't know where they are. You knowingly chose this path. But it doesn't mean that you will know how to handle those things when they actually happen. Wadde mwasalawo okugoberera olunyiriri olwo naye sisuubira nti mumanyi how it will feel ebintu ebyo bwe biribeerawo. I don't think you know how it would feel. I had already lost my parents, but when my brother died, it hurt like something I had never experienced. Be there for each other. It is normal to get traumatized and depressed. Seek for counseling support. Care about your mental health. Mental health is very important. Sometimes what your oppressor does is to make you lose your mind. And once you lose it, they use it as a weapon against you. Yet so be mindful about your mental health, although it's not totally in your hands to choose. It is okay to take breaks once in a while and recollect yourself. You're human and your body has limits. Talk to those who have been through similar experiences, especially trusted elders, and seek for their counsel. I have to underline that, especially trusted elders. I don't agree with the narrative that every elder is worth being approached for advice. Yes, but culturally we respect our elders because they earn that respect through their actions. There is a difference between being an elder and being an old person. You can be an old person but not an elder. So when you're challenged, seek the counsel of elders, those who have gone through some of these things and can advise you. Do not open too many fronts at the same time if you can avoid it. Totandika ntalo nyingi omulundi gumu naddala ng'entalo ezimu tezeetaagisa. Omanya olutalo lw'oliko n'otunuulira olwo, obumu obutono n'obwewala n'obuleka. Know when to fight, know when to run. From which song is that line? Yes, The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. Know when to fight, know when to run. Know what to respond to, know what to ignore. About knowing what to ignore, I don't even have to advise you on that. I've seen some of your leaders doing it very well. There are people who will say certain things and I think they expect now he is going to say something. Total silence. So that is part of the wisdom that we need sometimes. To ignore what we think does not. Avoid petty fights that add nothing to your goal apart from distracting you and distancing you from potential allies. Obutalo obutonotono obutayamba mubwewale oluusi obutalo obwo ofiirwa n'emikwano egimu gye wandyetaaze. Waliwo olutalo lwoleka ng'okimanyi nti ono omuntu wadde atandise olutalo ojja kumwetaaga. Kansooke muleke kati ndimuddira ng'ateredde. Si buli lutalo abali emizindaalo oba okugijjako munzijukiza nti nve wano nga nkyayogera. Anyway, I was saying avoid petty fights and that add nothing to your goal apart from distancing you from potential allies. Seek for strategic alliances, not just for building your own power as an individual or as a party. Honorable Senior, you talked about that, and I think Mr. Katana, if you're different camps working towards the same goal, why fight each other? Sometimes this discourages, actually often it discourages people out there. When you see people that you imagine to be working towards the same thing, fighting, you start asking yourself, but are they really working for that thing? Because if they were working towards that, then they shouldn't be fighting each other. So let's look out more towards making strategic alliances than fighting where there is no need. I'm happy to see someone holding a placard there, Free Dr. Besigye. I think that means a lot. At a noob gathering, someone holding a placard, Free Dr. Besigye. I think it's the spirit that we need. For those that we trust, there are those that might not really be, might not have won our trust. It is a waste of energy and an indicator of selfishness or lack of clarity of purpose for us to fight people who are trying to do the same thing that we are doing. I wish you the very best in your next plans. Go and make the world a better place. And congratulations once again.
When the struggle